Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage our Master of Ceremony, John Acton.
Well, welcome everybody. If you're just coming in, just grab some seats, please, and sit down. Welcome to Lisbon. This is the fourth Deliver event. The first one was in Luxembourg, then in Berlin, and then last year in London, and this year in Lisbon. So there's the theme of L's there. So I think next year maybe Luton, I don't know, or Liverpool perhaps. But I understand Stefan will announce tomorrow, late on, where next year's event is and the dates as well. I first met Stefan possibly 4 years ago when he asked me to meet him in Paris. We knew each other in an earlier life when I was at DPD, and we were across tables. He was at Pixmania, and we were negotiating rates and so on. I feel a bit of feedback from there. Can I switch to this? Is this on? It is on. Yeah, that's better. Okay. And I asked Stefan, what is Deliver all about? What are you trying to achieve? And he said that basically I want to change the world of logistics. I want an event that's like no other. An event that satisfies what everybody wants from something like this, which is to reinforce their knowledge, be focused on innovation and groundbreaking technology, so you can come to one place and learn what's happening all over the world and challenge your thinking. Okay? So one of his key points was I want to challenge people's thinking. I also want to encourage innovation and be a catalyst for change. So at that time, I'd set up my own consulting business, DPI, and our mantra is all about critical thinking. So there's an absolute alignment with what we wanted to do, and that's why for the first 2 years of doing this, and trust me, it's very stressful, I did it free of charge, because it was really important to me that this guy made this happen and made it a success. He's now paying me a little bit, but the point is that I really believed in what he was trying to do. We've got a fantastic format over the next couple of days, and I urge you to try and have as many one-to-ones, go and tour the exhibitions. There's some great stuff in there. We've got 4 plenary sessions in here, all with critical key topics that will impact logistics over the coming years, and in fact impacting them now. Okay? Stefan will come up shortly and tell you a little bit more about that. What I did want to say though is that your best thinking 5 years ago is your baggage today. Okay? That's why it's important to keep going. Housekeeping. When you were all taking your seats, you noticed there was Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi here, it's free, and it's Deliver 2019, and the password is Deliver 2019. The hashtag is Deliver Events, so please tweet furiously over the next 2 days. That would be great. You need to download a web app, and that is app.deliver.events. That's quite key, because one of the key elements of tomorrow will be want to award the people that are making a difference. But it's you guys that decide. There's no sponsor interference, there's no favoritism. It's down to the retailers in the room to decide who deserves to be acclaimed the best customer experience. Who's the Cool Vendor Award? Yeah? The Rising Star Award, Sustainability Award, and finally the Game Changing Award. So if you download the app, please, please, please vote based on the short list of candidates that you see. I'd now like to invite Stefan Tomczak onto the stage, the founder of Deliver, to tell you a little bit more.
So everyone here and spending those 2 days with us. It's in those 2 days, expect to exchange on latest delivery or logistics innovations with those curated plenaries here, with the breakout sessions, and also with all the networking that comes with that format. And also, I'm sure that you're also all here willing to make business, and that's why the 3,500 one-to-one meetings that's our schedule are here for. So about the content, so indeed we have crafted like a unique program that we are especially proud of, with prestigious speakers from Europe, Asia, USA. And those speakers or leaders who are sitting at the forefront of the artificial intelligence revolution. So they are coming here to share with us how they are unleashing their AI superpower to reshape a new retail and logistics order. I mean, this topic, for me, is fascinating. Actually, none of this would have been possible without the support from our 83 sponsors across transportation, packaging, technology, and fulfillment. So I'm sure you would agree with me that they all deserve a good round of applause for their support. Thank you for them, because none of this would be possible without them. So that's why I also encourage you to stop by their stand and just to discuss with them what are the innovations that they want to present to you. On the demand side, what is interesting to see is that many retailers here in the room, when you presented your roadmap, it was quite clear that many of you have indicated in your project roadmaps key focus on upgrading the customer experience through different ways, but actually most of the time it goes down to the improvement of the customer experience. It's through, for instance, faster delivery. It's through streamlined fulfillment operations. It's also through better return solutions, and also better presented and better package orders. So all of this comes together into factors into the a better customer experience. So to finish here on my end, again, thank you everyone for being with us today, and I wish you very fruitful and conversation and 2 super inspiring days. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the first session. This is all about AI. AI is here and now. We've got an outstanding first speaker. So I'd like to invite Chunhui Zhang, who's head of AI R&D at Tanya, which is the logistics division of Alibaba. Welcome. Now, I'm not going to read out a CV or anything. That's publicly available. You can read his very impressive CV. I thought to relax the speaker and myself, I'm going to ask him a few odd questions, like, for example, what do you enjoy cooking? What's your favourite dish that you cook extremely well?
Cooking, fried egg, maybe.
A fried egg, outstanding. And what's your favourite sport?
Table tennis.
Table tennis. Yeah. Awesome. And your first and favourite car?
I think Audi.
Audi?
Yeah.
So is mine. I drive an Audi, but other cars are available. And your first job?
First job work for Microsoft Research.
Wow, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I like the research. Yeah.
Okay, and if you could have invented one awesome thing that's been invented in the world, what would that have been?
I think the transformer.
A transformer?
Yeah.
Awesome, my kids love those. Right, now, last question.
Okay.
What advice would you give yourself when you were 16 if you could have spoken to yourself at that time?
16, I think, keep healthy, keep working.
Healthy
Healthy,
working
yeah.
lifestyle. That's pretty sound advice. So, Chunhui, the stage is yours.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. I think it's my pleasure to be here. I feel very exciting. Even I couldn't fall asleep yesterday night. I'm not sure because of jet lag after 15 hours the flight from Hangzhou, or just because of talk. Actually, I'm here as a presenter, also as a listener. I would like to share and learn. I want to share what I did in China in Hangzhou and what I was thinking. Also, I want to learn your insight about logistics. Let's take a look at the logistics in China. China, as you know, China has a big market and the quick growth and the delivery. Yeah, you are right. The number is daily. Every daily package volume is 110 million. Actually, as of 2018, the last year, the total orders would be the 50 billions. And this year, expect to hit the 60 billions orders. That's really a big numbers. You can see the figures, the quick growth. I think the logistics industry, including China and the partners, really play a big, very important roles to make it happen. Let's take a look into the networks in China of China. You can see that actually China has connected more than 10 million square meters and covered 2,800 counties and districts around China. And also, you can see China has the China largest, the last mile network. Actually, the 10% of the total package as generated in Alibaba's Tmall and the Taobao marketplace are handled by the China, we call the post station every day. You can see the post station actually covers 200 cities and around 2,008 the campus. This shows the solution provided for the post stations, for the last mile solutions, and also covered around China. Let's show the two examples. You can see here, that's a China post station. One picture showed it's in Shanghai Jiao Tong University. It's we call the post station in campus, and serve more than 60,000 students. The other side, you can see that it's very interesting. It's, I think, maybe the highest altitude post station. It's 5,000 meters. It's very near Mountain Kumalama. It can serve the visitors and the people around there. It's sure, there's a lot of the network and already have today, but the strong demand is driving the industry to enhance the operation efficient. The very quick, it's still ongoing, the quick growth. So we need to the better solution. And also the strong demand call for the technology, innovation. And also I think the technology really needs the scenarios, real scenarios to test your technology, to have the data, to machine learning. I actually listed two scenarios I called last mile and the K-miles. The last mile, as you know, and the K-miles refer to the, maybe the critical parts, or maybe critical, usually time very consuming, and as usually way, such as the trunk, maybe the high load, the drone, maybe can solve this. I think, sure, there's a lot of the great company and also the great innovation already here in this field. I just show maybe you have the new retail, agile automation, autonomous vehicle, even the drone solve the maybe the key miles, the things. Here, I would like to show some of the examples, show some of the our trials from China. First, we can take a video about the key mile things. We just finished 2 weeks ago, across the Chunhui, we call the Chunhui Street. That's connects the Hainan province and the Guangdong province. These are autonomous helicopters. Sorry, it's in Chinese characters. In the May 24th, from the Hainan Haikou. This is the free land. Actually, we just traverse across the street, really the street, 32 kilometers of the street. It takes 25 minutes, compared with the 5 hours if you use the shuttle shipping. And the payload is 100 kilograms. This is just our trails to show that maybe the key mile. You can use the autonomous helicopters to across that. And here, we show for the new retail trails. Actually, this is in the Hangzhou, we call the Xixi towns. And each year, around October, Alibaba will have the meeting here for the cloud engineers. It's a quick, big meeting for the innovation. So you can see it here. There's a mobile, the retails. The user can easily to get the waters and easily payment. Yeah. And here the example shows the smart warehouse. Actually, in the Wuxi, the smart warehouse, there are quite a lot of the things like AGV, like the tagging system, and also like the robotic distribution system. Also, we have the management system to make them work together. It's really the automation the warehouse. And also, we can use the autonomous car to connect the different warehouse, so make the warehouse the automations. Here you can take a look at. Look at the video. Also, it can be the key miles that's between the warehouse. And this actually, we have used one warehouse we call the logistic parks and the daily operations almost half a year. And here, also, you can use this technology maybe for the last mile deliveries. And easy to use. Maybe that's like mobile smart lockers. You can uploading, you can delivery, you can just input the code and pick up. It's very convenient. And actually, we tried this in the Hangzhou. It's near we call Zhejiang University's community. This is our trail delivery in the maybe complex conditions. That's in the Hangzhou Alibaba we call Xixi campus. It's a lot of raining days in Hangzhou, and also he should work at night, right? And it's running every daily, in this is campus for the delivery. And also, we just show example how we can build the autonomous vehicles. This there's one OV we call the G series. We call it G3. Because it need to, in the last mile scenarios, he can work together with the people around. Also, we need to the modular design. Can be suitable for different scenarios. Actually, in this way, we can divide it into the 3 parts. And so we can work together with all the partners to make it together. So we call this part have a lot of sensors, computing powers, and also the communication of the hardware in this. Also, we can use robotics to make the automatic calibration. We call the ATU. So what's the ETU? Actually, Autonomous System Unit. We call it ET here because I work for the ET lab. Just a robotic lab. So we call it ETU. Actually, it's a unit. Because it's a unit, can modular design, so that means we can share it, we can open it, we can work together with the partners in the industry. So we can integrate a solution of Azure computing platform together. We can build that. So because this part actually the main part of autonomous vehicle. Also, another thing is very, very important is the data. Actually, I want to when you do the algorithm, do the AI, do the machine learning, actually you need the data. I think the data should from the real scenario, real case. So we need to build the data closed loop. I think the best way is we work together with our partners and apply the new technology in the real scenarios. You can get data and with the data closed loop. So that may be better for pushing the frontier of the technology innovation. So for this, actually we have built we call the Tofeng program. Actually for you, this is maybe the pictures. That's the Chinese handwriting. I write it just as a logo. It's no cost. I just write it as a logo as well. So with what we call Tofeng program, we started last year. We actually call for the partners together. We can build it. We can work together to share, to open, to build maybe the autonomous cars, maybe build the programs. And actually, it's not only work for the tenure only. Actually, it's for all the members. And we would like to work together to push forward the frontier of the innovation. I think that's we build this program. And I think like to provide the scenarios and do the innovation and together to moving this forward to better solution for the better logistics, the innovation, the areas. And I think I believe in maybe the near futures. So we have the technology innovation and the better network, but smart logistics can make the life better and easier. I think it will very happen in the near futures. I think that's all for the talk today. Thank you.
Chunhui.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Super, thank you. Take a seat. Yeah. Fantastic start, I think you'll agree. So Chunhui, thank you very much for that insight. I'm now going to hand over the mantle to Sonia Dowsett, who's our moderator for the panel sessions this afternoon, for the rest of the day and tomorrow. Sonia is a senior correspondent for Reuters in Madrid. So Sonia and the panelists, please join me on stage, please.
Well, good morning, everyone. We have a fantastic panel here this morning. First of all, we have Shana Laurie, who's come all the way from Amsterdam, although she's originally from Canada, from PwC. We have Pharand, who is based in Miami, but is also a Canadian. That makes half the panel Canadian, which I'm sure is a record. Global MD of Post and Parcel at Accenture, and Achim Himmelreich from Cologne, correct, from Germany, right, who's the Global Head of Client Engagement at Capgemini. So Shana, Laurie, if I could ask you first of all to, each one of our panelists are going to give a presentation.
So welcome, everyone. When I think of myself, I don't think of myself as an early adopter of technology. My family would confirm that. So a few years ago, when I took on the consumer markets role at PwC, I said, if I'm going to be talking about this stuff and all the things I'm reading about, I need to actually touch it, feel it, and experience the things that I'm talking about. So the first thing that I did was I went online and I purchased an Alexa. So a couple days later, it arrived at my house, and I put the voice assistant on our table and started playing with it. And when I was making a recipe, I was converting something from metric to imperial or vice versa. I put on the alarm clock, just started experimenting with what's this technology bringing us. Then my husband came home. And my husband specializes in bribery and corruption scandals. He's allergic to any kind of social media, and he's anal about privacy. So the next thing that happened was the plug was taken away, Alexa was gone, and my Generation Z children, up to their chagrin and dismay, were very disappointed to see this device gone, because they would be early adopters. So how do I move the pen? Here, it's over here. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit today is at PwC, we do a survey on an annual basis, and we call it the Consumer Insight Survey. And this is the 10th year that we've done the survey, and we go out to, as I said, it's 10 years we've done it. We go to 27 different countries, and this year we surveyed 21,000, almost 500 respondents. And we asked them all sorts of questions and so forth about their buying habits, about what they're doing, what they want from the retailers and from the consumer products companies and so forth. And what's interesting about the survey is the results themselves are fairly interesting, but you get results like more and more people are buying on mobile devices, which I don't think would be surprising. But what is interesting is the comparisons between countries and also the comparisons from year to year and the changes you see over that 10-year period. So I wanted to spend the next few minutes talking about the results from the survey this year. And this year's focus was what we call ROX, or return on experience. And what we see is that the companies that will be successful in the future need to look at the way they're investing in a different way. You can't just calculate return on investment the way we've done it historically. The companies that are able to change and actually put business plans in place that focus on experience and come up with some kind of methodology for determining what that gain will be over the long term will be the ones that are ultimately successful. So that's what I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about. What we've done in terms of the survey is we focused on 6 areas, or what we call levers. And what I'll do is I'll go through each one of them and provide you with examples and so forth. So if I spend time on the first one, it's about a fusion between customer experience and employee experience. Because ultimately, if your employees are happy, they're your best ambassadors. So this is actually one of my audit clients. It's called the Bijenkorf, and it's a department store in the Netherlands. And their mission is to be the most inspiring, surprising, and creative department store where everyone is special. But when they talk about everyone being special, they're not only talking about their customers, they're also talking about their employees. So the example that I provide is a number of years ago, you would walk into the department store, and all their employees would be in these very drab, boring uniforms. They were easy to find, but they weren't really having a chance to display their personality. And what they wanted was enthusiastic sales workers that were excited about fashion, about design, and those are the people that they wanted to hire. So they would hire these passionate people, and they'd put them into boring uniforms. So a simple change of just letting their employees wear what they wanted, it improved the employee engagement substantially and made these employees ambassadors for the brand. The next example that I wanted to provide is about Purposeful Community. So this is a company called Tony's Chocolonely, and it started, the background of the company is it makes amazing chocolate, but the idea was that the company wanted to solve against slave labor and child labor in the cocoa industry. So, they said, look, if we look at the whole supply chain, we know we have the farmers, we know that where the product is sold ultimately in grocery stores and so forth, but there's a real problem in understanding what's taking place within that supply chain. So they came out and said, their mission is together we make chocolate 100% slave-free. And they came up with interesting concepts and so forth in terms of their packaging, but they really want their consumers to fulfill their purpose. They want to build a purposeful community. And social media isn't just about presence, it's about consciousness as well. And so one of the ways that they involve their customers, if you open the chocolate bar, and I should have brought an example, but there's a map of Africa on the back of the chocolate bar, and their chocolate bar isn't square. It's all different parts of the country where cocoa is grown, because they want to tell a story, and they're really trying to create a difference at the same time. The next example I wanted to take you through is what we call building magic moments. So if you look at the customer journey, how do you create magic moments along that journey? And where you really can create something that's different, you can create much more customer loyalty and so forth. So the picture that I've put up is my new puppy. His name's Chico. And we got Chico about 2 weeks ago. And we brought him home, and little beknownst to us, he was able to climb up the stairs, which we didn't quite realize that he could do. And then a few minutes later, we heard bump, 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 bump. And as he kind of came tumbling down the stairs. So he could climb up, but he hasn't yet figured out how to climb down the stairs. So the next thing was, well, what do? We need to put a gate in place, and we're going to go online and try to find a dog gate. But we wanted something that was pressurized, so it would hit against the walls without creating holes, because we just repainted. And we wanted something that actually would fit in place. So I go online, find all these different options. I'm overwhelmed and said, this isn't something that is going to work. I'm going to go to a store, and I want to find out what I can actually buy that will actually work. I want to touch it and feel it. So I go to a store, and first of all, had no idea where to actually find dog. They're called Hond and Hek in Dutch, but where to find them within the store, and I could not find anybody to ask or to help. So I walked around aimlessly for a few minutes, got frustrated, and left. So that store lost my purchase. I did go back online and said, I'm going to go and find it another way because this isn't going to work. So the good news is now Chico has a gate in place. I haven't ruined my paint, and so far he hasn't fallen down the stairs again. The fifth lever I wanted to talk about was understanding consumer behavior. And when we're looking at consumer behavior, you can't just, you can, but you can put, all your consumers into certain categories, but it's not just knowing what categories or demographics are on a piece of paper. It's how well do you truly understand your consumers. So Victoria's Secret makes a lot of money selling flannel pajamas. They make money selling other things as well, but they also sell flannel pajama bottoms, and those pajamas are big at Christmas time. So, but they don't know what's going to hit, what's going to be really successful with their customer base. So in August, they produce, about 10 different types of flannel pajamas, ones with hearts, ones with stripes, ones with polka dots. And then they sell them online. And based on going online and seeing what is the best, is the most successful product, then they adjust their production accordingly so that they make more striped pajamas than anything else for that Christmas season. So again, it's really testing rather than making assumptions about what your customers want and so forth. One of the other levers, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time about this, was respecting customer data. So our customers and consumers, we all provide a lot of data to companies these days. And when we're providing that information, we're providing personal information, and we're providing a degree of trust. So I think it's, needless to say that companies need to be respectful. They need to provide security, and they need to provide discretion in terms of how they use that data. And I think that's just kind of a basis for the future. The last example I wanted to provide you with, we call it winning the trip. So today, what we see from the survey and so forth is most customers, when they're planning a vacation, they not only they pay for the airline ticket and so forth. What they also do is they buy the entire trip, their hotel and everything else is part of an all-inclusive package. But what we see is as there is more and more digitalization is, do we really understand the whole customer journey from beginning to end, or are we making assumptions in that respect? So I was reading an article last weekend called Buying Too Much Stuff was the name of the article. And the example they gave, and I just did a quick Google search on Amazon, was the number of hangers. So you can go on to Amazon, and if you type in hangers, you get 80,000 different hits. Do I want 80,000 different hits? This is something I just need. I don't really care if it's velvet or wood or whatever else. So how much information is really too much information, and what's valuable at the end of the day? And I just put a picture on of Apple, and I think it's a good example of having very few SKUs, very few products, and actually that's been part of their success, that simplicity. So I'd like to just finish off my presentation with what we see as the companies of the future, as we're talking about AI, as we're talking about technology. I really believe that the companies of the future will be the ones that keep their customers in the heart of everything that they do. And we can talk about technology and the developments, but we can't forget the human element, because that's really what's most important at the end of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shana. Very interesting. Now, Andre.
Great. Can you guys hear me? So I represent the postal and parcel industry. So I will be here telling you a story about my industry. So I represent postal and global integrators, as well as some of the regional integrators. But all in all, they represent roughly about 90% of what gets delivered around the world. It's a story about disruption. It's a story about an El Dorado of delivery, right? The e-commerce is booming, yet a challenge to get even the basic profitability out of that, and how AI can help enable new delivery models. Does that make sense? All right. So first of all, a little bit of promo here. Accenture has been around for a long time. We do a lot of research. We do ongoing research in the postal parcel industry. Long story short, if you want to know more about what we offer in terms of thought leadership, just Google Accenture Post and Parcel, and you should be able to find what we offer. I want to start off with the state of of the delivery industry. So as I said, there's the postal component and then the integrators. And point number one is that in the postal industry, what we're noticing is that mail volumes are declining. And mail is profitable for post, generally speaking, but the challenge is if mail volumes decline further, you can't kind of piggyback parcels on top of mail, so ultimately you're paying the full price of the parcel delivery, which makes it very expensive. I'll get to some numbers there. Number two, parcels have been growing, and in some cases 20 plus, 30% year over year, and sometimes even 40% growth rates. But unfortunately, companies, both the postal and parcel companies, struggle to achieve profitability. So it's almost like getting a lot more volume, but treading water. You're not getting more profits based out of that. So there's a challenge there. And I'll explain a little bit of the economics there. But what it means is when it comes to essentially the outcomes for the businesses between 2016 and 2018, 69% of all posts and about 60% of all of the integrators that are part of our research, we cover about 40 companies every year, had lower profitability. So this is not really, I guess, a snapshot of a company or of an industry that's really healthy and going in the right direction. So what's driving this? Well, it's all about the consumer, right? And two things, they're looking for fast and free. The challenge is the fast is getting faster. A couple of years ago, 3 days might have been good enough, 2 days, and then we saw Amazon announcing 1 day for Prime. But essentially, we're heading towards same day. And the big challenge that the traditional delivery companies are just not built for local same-day delivery. They have more of a hub and spoke model, and that's wherein lies the challenge. So why does the last mile matter? It matters because it's the most important and most expensive leg of the delivery process. And so here, if you can just see, the bullseye is being the first retailer to offer same-day delivery nationwide. Now, this came from the CEO of Target, not of FedEx or UPS, but essentially 86% of consumers indicated that if they have an issue with the delivery, it has an impact on the overall online purchasing experience. So if it goes bad with the delivery company, it goes bad with the retailer itself. So you're kind of intertwined here. So there's kind of, it's not us, it's them kind of thing. No, it's all converging. And how did we get to here? Well, if you look at Amazon, and you can see this map, I mean, it tells it all. Start off with one, I guess, distribution center, went to 5, and then we're seeing here the proliferation of all the different fulfillment centers. But we're essentially going, and Amazon is the true leader in this, towards essentially stage inventory near local consumption centers. So it's also an epitome of, or a good example of what's happening in the supply chain in the US, right? And this can apply to any, I guess, geography, of going from a national model where you would FedEx or overnight stuff across the country to a regional model where you would use ground, and that would be 3 to 5 day delivery, to essentially metro deliveries from the fulfillment centers. Now, if you think, I guess Europe is immune, you're not. It's just a question of prioritization of the countries, and you can see here just a zoom on the UK where you have a significant amount of Amazon locations there. It's just a matter of time where once they kind of cover the UK, they'll go to the next country and the next. Now, retailers are not standing still, so your traditional non-marketplace retailers are basically looking at ways to counter this. They have to compete with Amazon and offer a very fast delivery, and they're using their local stores as an option. Now, there are two models that we're seeing here. If you look at kind of the line around groceries, they have peculiarities that are unique. First of all, they have density in terms of country, I guess, coverage. Number two is they have high frequency of orders. Think about groceries. We're talking about, for example, here the two companies that I put there, Walmart and Carrefour as an example. And then they have deep pockets, okay? So deep pockets mean that they're investing. And what that means is that in their particular case, and we're seeing this particularly in the US, is they're actually transforming a lot of their major stores into fulfillment centers, local fulfillment centers, where they're rejigging their entire layout of the store, adding automation in the back end, sometimes just temporarily at night or on a full-fledged basis. And so they're using their stores as inventory for local delivery to imitate Amazon. And then everybody that doesn't have those, I guess, characteristics of deep pockets and others, they basically, there are two options here, kind of a combination of using shared services, so 3PLs. It's essentially a fulfillment by Amazon, just not by Amazon, and also their own stores. And we know, looking at some of the data from our clients, that you're seeing an increased spike in the number of orders that are picked up in shopping centers. So a big shopping center now represents, where it was a handful of parcels a few years ago, up to 600 to 800 parcels nowadays. So you have like 5 or 6 letter carriers having to go to the shopping center just to get all of the orders that are online and that are regional. They're going to be delivered somewhere local. So we're seeing, in summary, a seismic shift in e-commerce fulfillment. Fast cycles, smaller shipments, local delivery, and automation of inventory. So the local delivery, when we talk about that, that's what I think is most concerning, because a lot of the traditional players just are not built towards offering local delivery and deep induction. They're built towards more of a hub and spoke model. So there's one exception, and that's actually USPS. And in 2010, they launched a product called Parcel Select. And you can see the line that skyrockets on the left-hand side. That's basically Parcel Select volume growth, growing at 40% year over year over the first 7 years of it. And it's basically a product where you deep induct it, and the letter carrier does the last mile. So if you had items that would arrive at 6 a.m., they'd be delivered day of delivery. Now, the concerning thing about this is nobody else really follows suit. So the question is, why is that? Well, two things. One is economics, and the other one is competition. So if you look at economics, take the left-hand side here, we're seeing the differences between a B2B and a B2C. So if your traditional FedEx or UPS used to B2B, looking at the characteristics and the bold numbers here, B2B is really attractive, but you'll go into B2C maybe because your customers are asking for you to go into that or to look for growth opportunities. But certainly this is not very profitable and it's actually margin dilutive, so you kind of are very cautious. And then if you look on the left-hand side here, the competition from a last mile delivery perspective, you can see here what Amazon actually pays on average, everything included. But you also see two other examples of where, typically startups that have low asset utilization can offer last mile delivery for around $2 for that last mile. In addition, I would say B2C offers the additional challenge of being extremely volatile. So it's hard to predict the numbers, not just volatility of China Singles Day or Black Friday, but also when you look at it, even on a weekly basis, a Monday could have double the volume of a Wednesday. When you think about that, at the same depot. I mean, honestly, if you're a Post, you never know who's going to do a promotion on flat screen TVs, and ultimately, you don't know exactly when you're going to be inundated by these flat screen TVs in your location. All in all, what I'm saying is that for AI in the last mile, it represents lower costs and greater agility. And specifically, it's enabling same-day and on-demand pickup and delivery for the traditional players. And it also, we believe, it's a 5 to 35% greater efficiency. These numbers are still preliminary. On a cost per parcel basis. So this can actually help everybody, delivery companies, consumers, and retailers, if this materializes, compared to regular dynamic routing that exists already. So AI is key to enabling same-day and also B2C deliveries. So I end with just one little video that will explain to you what AI really means. So really, what we're seeing here is just one example. When you do have predictive abilities, if you're getting historically 5 or 6 items that are being fulfilled and that pop up at around noon at a shopping center, you can actually allocate more time for the letter carrier to take into account that extra probabilistic, I guess, pickups that will occur. So that is essentially what I'm talking about when it comes to AI. So I'll just end here, and I really appreciate your time here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andre. And Achim.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. There's so much talk and so much rumors about AI. And a couple of months ago, I figured who is coining most influential to talk on AI. I've attended an AI conference, and when I checked out at the hotel, and the guy behind the desk figured that I had a speech at the AI conference, he just asked one simple question: when will the Terminator become reality? Or maybe the Matrix. So Hollywood is the institution that has the most influence on the talk on AI. And first of all, I want to make clear, that kind of AI is called general AI that evolves into super intelligence. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about narrow AI, which is, to put it simply, pattern recognition. And so we're far from those dystopian movies. But there's a contradiction, because what now is happening with the power of AI, that although it's not a human-alike intelligence, is that the human touch, the human interface is coming back into retail. In those good old days, like a century ago, when people went shopping around to the shop at the corner, the people knew who was there. They had knowledge about the families, and they had knowledge about preferences, so they made real recommendations. And then, with the invention of the supermarket and all those things, everything became anonymous. And right now, with the power of pattern recognition, it's time to get the human touch back into the retail sphere. And what we did recently was a big survey, big B2B survey on AI. And we asked more than 400 executives across the most important nations. And when you look at that, I won't go into details because time is short. You can see that everybody expects real impacts on all of those areas, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in process efficiencies, whether it's in supply chain. That's what is really happening. Those are basic facts about our survey. As I said, we covered the major countries and we covered the major sectors. And another thing is that money is flowing into AI. When you look at the number of AI startups in the last years, you see there's a boom as well. And then you have a pattern that is typical. Big companies are first. They invest more in AI than the small companies, what you can see on the right side. That's this one. And this one surprised me. We asked the companies, where do the investments of AI go? And most of them, 3/4 almost, said all of those customer-facing interaction, whether it's facial recognition, whether it's voice recognition, and so forth. Operations-focused things just equal 1/4 of that thing. But, and that's maybe for the audience here in e-logistics, the big thing, there are big numbers behind it. We made an estimation. Of course, it's not exact. It's an estimation and prognosis for the future. But you can see that big numbers are at stake. We looked at the existing operating costs, and we calculated with the average cost savings from AI, which were based on surveys, which are the cost savings for the whole market in 2022. And of course, this won't happen exactly in that way. But it shows that there are real numbers at stake. There's so much efficiency that can be achieved with pattern recognition across, along the whole supply chain, that investing in AI really can make a difference in your competitive advantage. I will flip over those slides for time reasons. And coming back to what can really happen in the customer interface. Of course, you can have a much deeper customer understanding and then enable your employee to make him smarter, to give him the knowledge to generate personal recommendations. And of course, then you can go into predictive personalization. And last but not least, conversational interfaces and immersive experiences can add to the customer experience. Okay, I'll flip over that as well. Of course, you need platforms, customer data centricity, AI technology, compliance and ethics. That's all you have to take into account when applying to AI. One example at the finish, that's a project we've done for an American cruise line. We had facial recognition at the re-onboarding, and of course, standing in the queue is not fun. And facial recognition makes that process smoother and quicker. And then we had an analysis during the shows on the ship, and the data that we generated during that analysis led to better and more personal recommendations for future shows. And of course, we turned the cruise line company, whose core competence, of course, is entertainment and cruising, into a kind of data-centric company. And so that's what we looked at in the last years. There was some enthusiasm about AI a couple of years ago. Then the companies figured out it's not that easy at all. So we termed it that we're right now in the AI death valley, but we're about to leave that because people and companies become more mature. And so I'll finish with 5 short recommendations. Is focus on quick wins. Of course, it's a new technology and you have to gain momentum. Focus on those areas where you have maturity in data processing, because AI is the extension of data, more data, and of course you have to look in your company where data maturity is really right now. Third one, of course, look through the customer lens. Even if you're in supply chain, we've heard from the last mile what the customer expects, and the expectations are getting even higher. So look through a customer lens. And And of course, we have to treat AI as a strategic imperative. I've seen it at customers that the chief data science officer becomes the chief AI officer, but then it won't work. It has to be a C-level initiative, otherwise it will it will run down. And of course, you have to increase your investment with AI. Thanks for your attention, and I want to finish with the best message of my speech. If you are interested to get the whole copy of our research report, just reach out to me via email, via social network, or afterwards here, and you'll get a free copy. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much indeed to our panel there. Very interesting insights. We were talking earlier before coming on stage about what a broad church AI is. It's one of these terms that is bandied about, but it covers such a broad church of technologies. Shana, you were talking about how important the customer is to be, and how we have to keep our eye on that. Despite all the different technologies coming in, we have to remember what we're here for, which is to serve our customer. Can you talk to me perhaps a little bit about the main challenges for companies looking to implement AI?
I think, I think it's it's trying to figure out what do they want to achieve. So with all these new technologies, it provides a heck of a lot of opportunity, but you have to keep in the back of your mind, what are you actually trying to achieve at the end of the day? And AI is just sophisticated machine learning using a heck of a lot of more data and so forth, but what do you want to do with it? And it's people that are programming and deciding how they want to use that information and really unleash those opportunities as well within their companies. And that has to stay a balance.
If we look globally, for instance, the Alibaba, we see the Alibaba presentation at first that we started with, we see the level of adaptation in Chinese markets and the level, how that changes across regions. Achim, could you talk a little bit about that, about how, are the Chinese markets at an advantage because they have such a wide adaptation of payless systems, mobile payment systems, these online to offline services, like from manicurists to food delivery, and the wide expectation of that, that's providing data for the technology to harvest and inform improvements.
Yeah, of course, if we like it or not, but China has an advantage. And then if you look at the performance of AI, the three factors, it's the algorithm, that's deep learning, everybody knows about it, it's open source. You need computational power, it's in the cloud. And then it's the amount of data that you gather. And Chinese has an advantage because they have different data laws for different reasons. And I guess there was some kind of Sputnik moment when AlphaGo won against the champion, and Go is so popular in China, and everybody watched it on television, and then everybody looked for AI. So there was a real run to universities, and the mayors in Chinese areas they get their KPIs from Beijing based on AI investments and AI successes, and so there's a real enthusiasm in the whole society about AI, and they have data laws that are not that intense, especially in Europe. So they have a real advantage to get more knowledge out of AI, and we have to react. We have to discuss it. It's a fact that we have a disadvantage, especially in Europe, and that ethics and economics really have an interconnection.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Andre, you were talking a little bit about how customers are now demanding next-day delivery, and how sometimes infrastructure cannot just keep up with that. How can AI help there?
Well, when you're going from a static model of delivery, like a post, to a dynamic model, AI can help enable some of the synergies, so like a USPS run or even a postal run that has a parcel along on top of mail can actually be fairly efficient when you think about it. But it's getting, for example, an on-demand, something that pops up at a shopping center. You get 2 or 3 of those, and all of a sudden you get some significant demand that they'd like same-day delivery, bringing them onto maybe an existing network that exists, or determining whether you use maybe an Uber for the 1, 2 that just don't fit into kind of that model, is how AI can help. I would say also AI can help in terms of better understanding customer preferences. So if you have tried to deliver 5 out of 6 times to this address and the person's never there, or they want to redirect, chances are you might kind of give a warning to the driver, so it's not just like a machine that does all the thinking. It's more kind of also a prompt for humans to kind of say, well, you might want to call him just to say, is he there? Or you might want to take alternative action. So this is where you get that insight that you would not normally have in a typical traditional kind of delivery model.
All right. But yet, I mean, coming back to the customer, how will the customer notice in other industries, in other retail environments? Shana, can you talk a little bit about that? What would be the customer's experience? You were saying earlier that, in fact, we talk about AI like it's 5 years in the future. We haven't quite arrived at that point, have we?
I think that the possibilities are boundless. So the question is what we do. I think that we're still kind of in the infancy stage. So the sophistication, and I'm generalizing, isn't necessarily
Is that at a global level, or do you think particularly in Europe?
No, I'd say at a global level. I'd say, on an overall basis. But, going back to, I think it was in Andre's slides, that customers, and especially as you go into millennials and so forth, want their goods delivered. Their expectations are that they want it delivered now. They want it a lot faster, and there's, they're more demanding. And so where it might not necessarily be realized on the customer side, but in terms of predictive, companies like Amazon, and I assume Alibaba is doing the same, are using predictive analytics to get the goods from the big warehouses into the right delivery centers for what they expect will be delivered the next day. Then it's getting it far closer to the customer to enable that last mile. And that's the changes that you're seeing and so forth. If you don't predict that, then it's a lot harder to get it from the warehouse over here and get it to the customer's door within an hour service or so forth.
Achim, you were talking about quick fixes, quick hits. What practical advice would you give to a company looking, we talked about this huge, vast array of AI that can be dazzling, it can be, where do I start? Where do I start implementing these technologies into my business to service the customer better? How you think you should be going in, looking at fix and fill strategy?
Of course, you have to look through a business lens, not through a technology lens. And every company has some areas where really things don't work very well, where things hurt. And for example, a big quick service restaurant chain that we all know, in the US, they have 80% drive-through, and there's a lot of misunderstanding between, and Latin American asks and Asian American answers and so forth, and there's the background noise, etc. So they have more than 20% misunderstandings. And then you order your nuggets and get your burger, you're frustrated. And so we changed that with AI-based voice recognition and reduced the misunderstandings to 3%. There was a very concrete business case. There was a business issue, things hurt. And in a very isolated area, you could experiment with AI and see the real benefit, and then you get the arguments to get more money from the board.
Yeah. What about challenges? Once you start implementing these systems and you're dealing with a global company that has multiple legal systems, multiple tax systems, multiple languages, currencies, what's the difficulty there? Andre, how you're at a global position, how do you deal with that?
The biggest challenge we see is that most of our clients are the asset-rich, information-poor companies, and that's a misnomer.
Can you give examples?
Well, many postal organizations, some of them, they have constraints from also a privacy perspective. As information poor, that's not quite right. They have tons of information, in fact, too many coming out of their wing, right? The challenge is they're not leveraging it to actually drive a lot of the decision making. And
how do they need to optimize that information to make it good data?
It's almost a data-driven kind of, or a data organization type strategy, first of all, to figure out what you have, how you can leverage it within the confines of what you can and cannot do. I guess it's a way of how you look at it. If you're coming in and you're a startup, right? And we saw there was a lot of startups happening. I saw Booth Stewart is one example. There's many different companies that live and a few others in the US, not just in the food area, but that do last mile delivery. And, but they come in with very, I would say, an asset light information rich model where they are all about the data. Best example is Amazon. I mean, they forward stage their inventory based on what they know about the prior purchase behaviors. So they know statistically that there will be 3 baseball bats sold in the Orlando fulfillment center. That's how you use it, right? It's really about optimizing what you have. So the posts and some of the large integrators or medium-sized companies might have the information, but they really don't know how to use it. They're trying to build perhaps initially some analytics capabilities in-house, and that's kind of the step next afterwards. You get maybe into more some of the AI. But I still think it's embryonic, and it really comes down to where you're coming from. What's your history?
Shana, do you find that with some of your clients, like maybe if you have the old industries that are trying to get into AI, you have these companies like Amazon who are, best in class, or Alibaba who are using this data, they've got it in their blood, they know how to do this stuff. How is it when you start looking at the incumbents in, say, the postal sector or even in the food sector that are trying to incorporate these elements? What would you advise them to do?
What we see is that's why you see FMCG companies getting into DTC.
Sorry, what's MCG?
Consumer products companies getting into direct-to-consumer. They historically have sold all of their products to retailers. Their customers are the big retailers. They don't know a lot about the end consumer. And so one of the things that they're trying to do is how do I deliver the products and how do I get my products directly to that end consumer so I have a better relationship and better understand what their wants and needs are. You asked about the globalization and sitting here living in the Netherlands. When we did our survey last year, the amount of online shopping was generally lower in the Netherlands versus other countries, and we were trying to analyze why. Part of it is proximity. I have a store of every kind around the corner from my house. It's really easy. Whereas when I'm in Canada, everything is a lot farther away. So by generalizing and saying we're going to do it this way across the globe in the same way is, I think, the potential risk. You do have to understand what's unique and different in each individual market, and that goes back to the customers and the population you're supporting.
And when you look at, I think Andre mentioned in his presentation how the customer doesn't care whose fault it is that they got the item late. So you have several companies collaborating to get that item and deliver that item to the customer. Achim, how do you see that? I mean, will there have to be a change of culture within companies that they have to look at, right, this is the item, this is our customer, it's all of our customers, or it's all of our customer?
Yeah, of course. Those traditional companies, whether in retail or in distribution, they look at themselves as a legal entity. They're not open for collaboration. That has been their tradition, their culture. And when you look at the fact that the e-commerce delivery will increase 10% every year, but the cities will not get more space over the next decades, so we have to think about different solutions. And some of them are technological, the drones, like we've seen from Alibaba, and the other ones are part of shared economy between maybe private actors, new startups, and the old incumbents, and we have to think about that because it won't work otherwise.
Yeah. And finally, I left the most thorny issue to last. For the average man or woman in the street, what they're worried about when they think of AI. You mentioned Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger walking down the street. I mean, aside from that, jobs. We're worried about jobs, our jobs being replaced. I'm a journalist. I'm sure, I'm worried about my job being replaced. Information aggregation, Andre, you talked about unions in the delivery business being concerned and getting a lot of kickback off them.
I think it can act as this complementary tool for an action. For example, if again, the example, if you have kind of their preferences and you know that this is perhaps a potential no-show, so your first-time hit rate might be 0 there at this address, you might incentivize the driver to give a call just to make sure. But I go back to the 80s when they started VisiCalc and Excel. They thought that the whole career of accountants would disappear. So I'm not too worried.
You're not too worried. Okay.
We're going to find some solutions, and I think it might be more a job aid in some cases. I mean, AI is not autonomous vehicles and other kind of more disruptive stuff. That's kind of, I'm not even considering going there, but I think it's perhaps exaggerated. I mean, but it's a fair concern.
But our jobs are safe. Let's end on that positive note. Okay. Thank you very much indeed to the panel.